Okay, next we'll talk about division properties. So for 4.3b, we're looking at exponent division properties or quotient properties. And so these are the rules for dividing powers rather than multiplying them. So the quotient of powers rule means, or says, when you divide powers with the same base, subtract the exponents. So remember, when we multiplied powers, we added the exponents, but just as you would expect, the opposite of multiplication is division, and so the opposite of addition will be subtraction. So a more concrete example here, g to the fifth divided by g squared, that's g to the third, right? 5 minus 2. Now a note on this, if the larger exponent is in the denominator, the power will end up there. So for this example here, we have m to the 7th over m to the 9th. Well, 7 minus 9 is going to be a negative, but just remember that because there were more m's in the denominator, that's where the final answer is going to be. So you can think 9 minus 7 is 2, and it goes in the denominator. Because here's what's actually happening here. M to the 7th means you have 7 m's over m to the 9th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. And what happens is when you divide, these cancel out in pairs. And what's left are these 2 on the bottom, so 1 over m squared on the bottom. So you can subtract as normal, just do 9 minus 7, but just remember, if the larger exponent is in the denominator, the power will end up there. Your final answer, your final power will be in the denominator. And if there's nothing left on the top, just put a 1. Same thing happened here, right? We've got g cubed over g to the 5th. 5 minus 3 is 2, but it goes in the bottom because that's where the 5 was. And then h to the 8th over h cubed. 8 minus 3 is 5. Goes on the top because that's where the bigger number was. So let's try some examples here. So x to the 4th over x squared. 4 minus 2, that's just x squared. For example B, x cubed y squared over x to the 7th y. Well, 7 minus 3 is 4, and because the bigger one's on the bottom, we know we have x to the 4th on the bottom. And then 2 minus 1 is 1, bigger one's on the top, so that y to the first power goes on the top, and that is the answer there, y over x to the 4th. For part C, now with coefficients, these get divided as normal. So 6 divided by 2, that's 3. So we have a 3. And then x cubed over x squared, 3 minus 2 is 1, and the bigger one's on top, so that's where it belongs. And then y to the 5th over y to the 7th, 7 minus 5 is 2, and the bigger one is on the bottom, so we need a y squared on the bottom of our fraction. Okay, so wherever the bigger exponent is in your division, that's where the answer ends up. Okay, looking at the last example, we have 4 over 8. Now we can just treat that as a fraction and reduce it, because 4 over 8, obviously 8 doesn't go into 4, so we can just think of this as a fraction, 4/8, which reduces to 1/2. And then we have m's 1 and 2. 2 minus 1 is 1, and because the bigger one's on the bottom, that's where that m goes. And then for the n's, again, it's on the bottom. 5 minus 3 is 2, so what's left over is just like this. So our final answer is 1 over 2mn squared. Okay, so again, you're just subtracting the exponents. And if the bigger one happens to be in the bottom, make sure that's where the answer ends up.